Hey there, welcome to the world headquarters of Gus Mujica Real Estate with Remax Results in Asheville. This is the glorious office, as you can see. That's where I kill it, actually. Um, but I just wanted, I never have done a video that was actually a profile video um, that kind of explained to people how I got into this business and how I stayed in this business. And so I thought I'd go ahead and make a little video since that's a question I get almost every time when I'm interviewed by someone that is not familiar with my story. So I thought I would go ahead and put a video here and log it. So I started in this business in the real estate industry. It's a big industry, of course, in the late 90s. And the way I got introduced into real estate was simply by um, rehabbing a house. I used to be in the music industry, in ministry, in a Christian ministry, and I couldn't do that any longer. It had run its course in my life, and I was looking for a different trade. Um, and I really didn't have much interests at that time, and I was able to partner with somebody, and I was just reading the paper. Who knows what I was looking for? And I saw an ad for a home um, that seemed like an incredible deal. So I talked to a friend of mine, and um, he was able to help me out, and we partnered together and tackled this two cabins out in Cashiers, North Carolina, which was about an hour and a half away. So that was my introduction. So I got my hands dirty and started rehabbing and remodeling and cleaning. And once I got into that, I ran into all kinds of issues that I didn't know I was going to run into. I had septic issues. I had issues with the family of the owner who had recently deceased. I had issues with the neighbors. I had issues with the power being stolen from the neighbors. And all of these things were stuff that I never even thought about, never even considered, and wasn't even thinking of asking when I purchased the property. So that became a project per se. A lot of commuting, a lot of time, and a lot of money and resources went into that project. Ultimately, while I was going through that process, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. That hasn't stopped me in a lot of things in life, if you know me. But so I decided to take a step backwards, and while I was rehabbing that house, I went to take my real estate course, real estate classes, thinking maybe that would help me, um, you know, um, down the road and give me some insight. So I took the classes. Well, they were easy back then. You just had to pay your money and regurgitate the information they were telling you, and you got a license. So I can tell you, I didn't have a problem passing that class, and I finished it. But once I was licensed, I don't really know that I knew much more about the actual day-to-day dealings in real estate. But I was liable for a lot of things, and did get some insight on the law and the regulations and how the process actually worked, which was extremely helpful. So, but it didn't equip me to be an agent necessarily, but it did equip me to be liable as an agent. When I got my broker's license, it would kind of dawn on me that I was able to start my own brokerage. And there's a bug flying around here somewhere. And so I did that. While I was in that class, I met a friend met somebody who has become my friend, and he was getting licensed. He happened to be living in that area at the time. He worked where he was going to hang his license was literally down the street from where my houses were located in Cashiers. I didn't want to drive 3 hours potentially just to show the house, so I worked a deal with him, and we did a co-broker situation where we shared some of the I did on the marketing, and then if I would send someone to him to show the house, and and if they were interested, then we would work something out. So because he was new and because I was new, we really didn't know what we were doing, but we trusted each other as people. We'd grown to kind of know each other well, and so there wasn't any concern that someone was trying to take advantage of the situation. Ultimately, he ended up finding the buyer through the MLS system that he posted it on, and I was able to get out of that house. Did I make any money on that house? None that I remember. It did cost me some money and a lot of time, but like I tell people, it was still cheaper than college. That's when I was licensed and I started my own firm. Well, I worked for a small boutique kind of company. At that time, it was a GMAC when they were around in the area. And I worked there in Weaverville for a few months. And then I really struggled with, getting into the business and trying to find, clients without experience. So I worked hard, but I really didn't have a lot going there. So I had to come up with some kind of other angle. So the market was really strong at that time. If anyone remembers, that's when the whole debacle came. Asheville was crazy, but the whole world was crazy from 2000 and, first years of 2000. Well, I started a company that was a little bit different, kind of an a la carte service, which was more of the trend in larger cities like Raleigh and California. And I kind of studied up on that a little bit and met with some folks who were running those kind of situations. And as much as they were able to give me insight, there wasn't really any benefit in trying to be a franchise with anybody. I didn't see that benefit at that time. So I just started my own company called Compass Realty. It still exists, but not under my ownership. And ran that from 2000 to about 2008. I was a young, single, ambitious person that had a lot of energy, time, and was going through a bunch of resources. So I learned a lot because I had a lot of transactions that I did throughout that time. But ultimately, I did end up getting burnt out. I had my own personal recession, I call it. Came in with a soccer injury, and that was kind of led me into a lot of, I had to get surgery and was on crutches for a long time, and I went through a little bit of a dark spell, but I was tired and I had to focus on recovering, and that's when I met my lovely wife, and we teamed up from there. So that. From that point on, I felt like I had the partner to go through a lot of the stuff that we were going to go through together. And so, not to distract you, but that's what happened. So at that time, the writing was on the wall for that. I had a couple of rental properties that I owned. I took out a lot of. I took the loans. Some of the loans that I did take out were adjustable rate mortgages, like that were famous and popular, with the idea that the market was going to continue in that. But as I saw that happening, I knew it was not going to continue. And so thankfully, as they increased, I was able to bail on those properties and sell them and go through that process. So we lost, all of our properties there. I was able to, at that time, I made a decision to trim down my office and slim it down to 2 agents. Well, actually just me. And my agents dispersed and they went into other professions. Some went to different companies to work. And then I had staff too that unfortunately I had to close shop down and move back to my home where I was simply dealing with clients, working with clients, and not having to run an office and deal with managing people and that whole process. I wasn't really, I guess, not good at it. It was not as profitable as I hoped because I was really tackling all the fires, and then the market started to shift. In 2000, gosh, I don't know, 6, I guess, I was remodeling a home in Woodfin, and one of the neighbors asked if I would like to purchase their property. Well, the bank was crazy enough to give me a loan, and I purchased it, and that's when I made the adjustment. um, to move from my office downtown, close it down. I still, marketed a 27-unit subdivision of eco-friendly homes. Brought in someone from Charlotte, a friend of mine, who ultimately ended up buying the company, to help me with that process. And turned out that it just they fell belly up during the recession and they could not complete that project. So I was out of the marketing in that project. The prices that they needed were just way too high for what they could get anymore in that project. So they went bankruptcy. They went bankrupt um, and lost their shirts on that. And I no longer had that subdivision to market. But honestly, it was a good time for me, a transition where I could kind of pull back, not have the pressure of owning and running a company, and just live. And so we lived as thin as possible. We were broke, and we had a lot of different things happen in our life, my wife and I, and we were going through some things together. Not the things were not about each other, but we got to experience a lot of things together, which was awesome, amazing. So that being said, we moved from one house to the street to the next house to the street, and we kind of stayed in the area. And when the market started to pick up a little bit in around 2012, I guess 2011, I got a call from a company here called Carolina Mornings, and we had talked, and the timing seemed right. Compass Realty was going in a different direction. I no longer had ownership, had a different vision. The vision at Carolina Mornings was to try to develop a real estate sales wing of their vacation rental management company. Ultimately, after 2 years, it did not develop. The business was not there like they thought. I was not interested, honestly, in developing another company at that time. But I will tell you that they're amazing at what they do from vacation rental standpoint, and that because they recognized that, they were recognized that also that the sales side, developing a sales aspect of their business, would drop them in SEO and drop their focus, their hyper focus on being top-notch vacation rental company. So I took all of that experience. I really didn't know much about vacation rentals. I knew that a lot of people didn't know about them. So as an agent, it was valuable information that I took with me from then, learning how to evaluate a vacation home, how the numbers work, what type of home is actually desirable, the locations, what makes a good home, a vacation home, and what makes a good client for a vacation home. So that was important information. I was there for 2 years. They decided that we came to a mutual understanding that there was nothing to build there, and we amicably parted ways. And I'm still the referral agent for that company. They no longer sell it through their company. But Jimmy Vestal, the owner, and Margaret approached me about that time and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Not much." So we sat down and had a talk, and I really liked the Vestals and the location of the office, and never really considered going into a larger franchise like Remax. So I'd always been kind of a lone wolf. That's wanting to do things a little bit differently than what the corporate standard was. But then I looked at Remax from a different vantage point, not how it benefited me necessarily, but how it could be beneficial to my clients. And I saw a lot of benefits that were great for my clients from a listing standpoint, to have that brand name in front of their house, to have the support of a network of agents that are really highly experienced, and very, very competent in the industry. And so that really resounded to me at that time, and I came aboard. So I've been here, gosh, I think 3 years in March. And it's still a good fit. I still like working out of this office downtown. And I get to do my work from here. So that hasn't changed. I've really enjoyed the work a lot more than I had when I ran my business and when the market was crazy. My life does not require me to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, so I'm able to be in this game and enjoy it, as opposed to necessarily getting in the stress of trying to maintain numbers to keep a business open. So anyway, that's just a big a little bit of a summary as to how I ended up here, and what I'm currently doing. So if you have any real estate needs or know anybody that's interested, I've be glad to talk to someone that I could help. There are 1,500 agents and growing here in Asheville area, so chances are I'm not going to work with all of the people that's selling their home, of course, but if there's a good fit between me and my clients, then I found it very, very beneficial. So anyway, let's talk, and that's my story. If you want any more specific questions or details on any of it, then just give me a call. You'll have a way to get in touch with me on my website. All right, thanks guys, and I'll just leave it here for anyone else that wants to know. All right.